Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French, and tonight we start with breaking news. Just hours ago, a jury found former Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, arguably one of the most powerful men in recent history in Albany, one of the three men in the room. They found Mr. Silver guilty on all 7 federal corruption charges. This, of course, a huge victory for U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. He issued this terse statement just minutes after the verdict came down. Quote, "Today, Sheldon Silver got justice, and at long last, so did the people of New York." All right, and all throughout this trial, our own Dominic Carter has been covering this. He's live once again in Lower Manhattan with more on this. And Dom, I know just minutes ago, the former speaker walked out, didn't have much to say. I know throughout the trial, he'd always been telling you day after day, he and his counsel, they would be vindicated at the end of it. Not so much tonight, right?
$100,000 in state money for cancer research to a doctor at Columbia University. That doctor in turn then referred cancer patients to a law firm affiliated with Sheldon.
Well, Richard, the situation is quite chaotic down here, so it's a little hard to hear what you're saying. At this hour, you have jurors literally walking out, and Mr. Silver just left here literally with lots of reporters about 2 minutes ago. Guilty on all 7 counts. We're going to play a little later a bit of what Mr. Silver had to say. He's looking at potentially 20 years in prison, Richard. We also had an interview with one of the jurors. It now turns out, and we can confirm what our original thoughts were. You know, they came back in 3 days with their decision. It could have been just 2 hours. The holdout juror that we're going to let you listen to, she was the holdout voting in favor of Silver. Everyone else was against him. This is just 2 hours into deliberations, Richard. So we know now that the feds had put a plea bargain on the table. Silver's team never responded. As he walked away, Richard, he made it clear that he's disappointed and that he plans to appeal the decision. In just a second, we're going to talk to some of the folks that are standing by here live. Dick Dady, for example, of a Good Government group, as soon as we can get his attention to make his way over here. But shocking developments. It was not expected to go down exactly this way, Richard, in terms of 7 guilty decisions, from money laundering to extortion and honest services fraud. Sheldon Silver, the former Speaker of the Assembly, and now a former Assembly member, because Richard, obviously, with his conviction, it's an automatic expulsion from the New York State Assembly. And so, Richard, there's lots of activity going on right now as we speak, and I'm trying to just hold on for 1 second so we can get a reaction of a Good Government group. And I'm going to bring in Dick Dady, who's joining us live right here now on Verizon Files. Thank you. Nice to see you again. Are you shocked at what happened here tonight?
I am not shocked. I'm happy and relieved, because for the first time, New Yorkers were able to focus in on the crazy way in which Albany politics are conducted. We saw in stark detail the way in which political decisions and legislative decisions are made, and New Yorkers are disgusted. We were concerned that it was only going to be seen as unethical and unseemly, which it has been for decades. Finally, we now see that it is illegal. But we should not be solving the problem by going to the courts every time a politician gets into trouble. The governor needs to call the legislature back into session for a special session next month and solve this problem of corruption once and for all. The ethics reforms over the last 10 years have tinkered around the edges, but have not solved the problem of where state lawmakers use their public posts for private gain. We need to enact new laws that limit their outside income, raise their pay, and strengthen our own internal enforcement.
So, as Richard French, the host of the show, he's talked about this many, many times. Right. So you're advocating making the legislature full-time?
The legislature, yes, the legislature should become a full-time legislature, and where their pay is raised and their outside income is limited. But it's going to be very difficult, because New Yorkers do not want to raise their pay for corrupt elected officials. The legislature has done nothing, and then we have to hold each and every one of them accountable, and the Governor Cuomo accountable. If they do not go back and solve this problem of corruption, none of them deserve to be reelected.
Now, in a courthouse, it's remarkable what you've been around a very long time advocating on behalf of the public. It's remarkable that another criminal trial is in the courthouse right behind us in terms of Dean Skelos.
If Dean Skelos gets convicted, it will be a double whammy. I mean, if not now, then when? For two former leaders of the legislature to be convicted at the same time and for the legislature to remain silent will be a turning away of their responsibility. They need to solve this problem. I mean, corruption is a big, big issue. We should not be turning to the courts to solve our problem. New Yorkers are outraged and they want change, and they want change now.
Dick, you're live on Fios RNN right now. So just one more time, this doesn't surprise. I mean, frankly, it caught me off guard that it went down. It's guilty on every single count.
What surprised me was the fact that it was guilty on all 9 counts. I thought that the prosecution was throwing up as many charges that they could possibly get up there in the hope that 1 or 2 would stick. I am surprised that all 9 stuck, but happy because I think it gives momentum to the need to further reform the legislature and our state government. And they haven't. They're sitting on their hands and they're turning their backs, but I hope that now that they will finally confront this issue.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us live. Have a great night. And so, Richard, again, lots of media activity. Sheldon Silver left here just a few minutes ago. It's actually 7 counts, convicted on each and every count. We have sound that we haven't had the opportunity to turn around yet for you, Richard. But with a juror who was, I'm sorry, I'm being told something in my ear, but I couldn't make that out. A juror who, okay, we're going to let you listen to a little bit of the juror that was the holdout in Sheldon Silver's favor.
Were you the one did you send the note on Wednesday saying that this was kind of an overwhelming thing for you?
That was me.
What was your juror number, ma'am?
6.
Why was it overwhelming?
Initially, everyone, they disagreed with what I thought I should look at. Everyone else, had their opinion, but at that time I didn't feel they were respecting my opinion, or I just felt a lot of pressure. I felt like fight or flight.
Richard, that was one of the jurors, and what she has to say is extremely important as it relates to Sheldon Silver's conviction. As we now know, as of tonight, and it was only speculation a few days ago, they would have convicted him in the first 2 hours before leaving for Thanksgiving. She was the only holdout that had reached out to the judge and said that she felt intimidated. She felt initially that Mr. Silver was not guilty, but ultimately she changed her mind as well. As Sheldon Silver left the courtroom, here's what he had to say tonight.
I'm disappointed, but we'll continue the legal fight.
Sheldon Silver saying he's going to appeal. So, Richard, lots of activity down here tonight. Sheldon Silver convicted on all 7 counts. He's looking at possibly 20 years in prison. He is now going to be an ex-assemblyman. He's automatically kicked out of the state assembly upon conviction of a felony. That is it for now, Richard. Let's go back to you.
Dominic, this trial certainly had its share of drama. We understand that Bahara chose to sit in the courtroom. Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney, who's really been front and center on all this, he sat in the attorney, and he was there when the decision came down. Apparently, Shelley Silver gave a few looks over to Preet Bharara, who was sitting in the same thing. Certainly didn't agree with the verdict. At least that's the description of his reaction at the time. We'll know there's no love lost between the two, but politically here, a huge win here for one Preet Bharara.
You can say that again, Richard. You are correct. The U.S. attorney, he's been in this courtroom consistently during this trial. One may see that as odd, but the stakes are high. As the decision started to trickle in about 3:30 this afternoon, what immediately happened, they locked the doors in Judge Caproni's courtroom as the announcement was made. Roughly about 4 o'clock, give or take, the U.S. Attorney, his office is right behind this federal courthouse. He made his way into the courtroom, and he actually was in the courtroom, as you said, as the decision was announced, and he issued a statement. I don't have it. Deb, do you have the statement in front of you? I don't have the actual statement in front of me as we speak. Things are continuing to break at this moment, Richard. But it was a one-line statement in which the U.S. Attorney basically said that justice has been served.
Yeah, we have it for our audience. Dom, we have it for the audience, and again, it is today. Sheldon Silver got justice, and at long last, so did the people of New York. And Dom, you mentioned this off the top, but I think really interesting. You talked about the timeline of this. The defense didn't put on a case at all. They didn't bring any witnesses. Obviously, Sheldon Silver himself chose not to attend. Every day after court, when they'd walk out, Sheldon Silver and his counsel, lead counsel, Mr. Moe, they'd come by you. They'd say the word vindication. They'd be vindicated. They were really confident. As you said, apparently the prosecution came to him with a plea offer that they said, we'll take our chances with the jury. Obviously, there was a major misread about the defense here in how they put their case on, and also in terms of how they felt the jury was going to come back here. The only way to describe the Silver team has to be shocked tonight, right?
Well, you could see it, Richard, in Mr. Silver's face. Disappointment, shock, and I'm glad you just brought that up because it bears repeating. No defense, nada, nothing from Sheldon Silver. Now, a lot of times defense attorneys will do that, as you have pointed out, Richard, when they feel that the people have not met their case. That was clearly the argument. But you know, there was no one, the reason why this is shocking, Richard, there was not a single witness that clearly established or testified to a quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. It did not happen in this case. And yet the prosecutor got a conviction on all 7 counts. So, Richard, you mentioned the stakes. Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney, he has a full political career ahead of him. He has another case as it relates to Dean Skelos and his son. Evidence has been mounting in that case. So this is basically, to put it in raw political terms, and I hate to put it this way, but this is another notch on the U.S. Attorney's belt. He is cleaning up, I was about to say corruption, but now alleged corruption, but it's not alleged anymore because Mr. Silver has been convicted. The one thing that's unclear as of right now, how much time Judge Caproni will sentence Mr. Silver to, and it's also unclear as of right now when she will actually sentence Mr. Silver. We do know, as the jurors, some of them stopped to talk, some of them left out of a side door, Richard. We had cameras on every door, and so that's why we're trying to turn around the sound as fast as we can, but it is quite a challenge here tonight. Sheldon Silver convicted on all 7 counts.
And I'll let you get to it, Dominic, with the unfolding scene there in Lower Manhattan. And as Dominic mentioned already, this is one of 2 trials going on of 2 of the 3 men in the room here, the third being Governor Cuomo, but the other trial going on right across the plaza from where Dominic's standing is of one Dean Skelos. And many people thought that was the stronger of the 2 cases that the U.S. Attorney had going at the moment. All right, Dominic, we'll possibly check in later with the program. Of course, he'll have continuing coverage of this, including of the trial of Mr. Skelos in the coming days. But when we come back on the other side of the break here, we've got a panel with really unique perspectives on this. Will the conviction of Shelley Silver change the culture in Albany? How shocked were they about the verdict that came down today? All that and much more. Please stay with us.